the people around us. So I know we talked about that the last couple of days, but I know this is going to be top of mind for you. You want to know where we are, and you want to know when things could change. And this is what we're going to be looking at, and we're going to try to provide, as we get a little more into it, where we think we are on each of these to the extent we can. Obviously, the vaccine is out of our control, but we do want to follow the news and see where we are going on that. All right, today's numbers have some good and some bad, or some bad and some good as it goes. So today we're reporting our highest number of new cases that we ever have. 273 new cases of COVID-19. Those cases break down as 129 in Jefferson, 21 in Kenton, 17 in Davis, 17 in Muhlenberg, 10 in Butler, 9 in Graves, 8 in Jackson and Warren, 6 in Adair and Boone, 5 in Henderson and Ohio, 4 in Fayette, 3 in Russell, 2 in Bullitt and Hopkins, and 1 in Bourbon, Campbell, Clay, Cumberland, Fulton, Grayson, Knox, Lewis, McCreary, McLean, Spencer, and Woodford, and we're working on 9 others. Once we remove duplicates and cases that do not meet the definition for confirmed cases, our total number of cases in Kentucky is 2,960. So we're getting very close to 3,000 cases here in the Commonwealth. We always knew we'd have at least that number. In fact, right now, we believe we'd have significantly more, even with the testing capacity we have. You are flattening the curve, but let's remember there is a curve, right? There is an escalation. There's going to be a day where we have the largest number of cases. That's the way that this works. But also know that we're not in the 14 days that we talk about of decreasing that we need to, under the White House guidelines, to do certain things. I mean, we are still in the midst of this fight against a deadly and highly contagious virus. So let's make sure, as much as we're looking at those benchmarks and we're looking at the future, that we are acting in the present and we are doing the things that it takes to protect one another. Total numbers of Kentuckians tested, and this is the weekend, so even with these numbers, we don't have all labs reporting. Total tested 32,319. Our hope is next week we'll jump with 4 sites very significantly there. Number ever hospitalized in Kentucky, 1,011. Currently hospitalized, 265. Ever in the ICU, 532. Currently in the ICU, 149. Let's think about those folks. That means that they are struggling or at least need more care. And my favorite number, those recovered, 1,122. Now the percentage recovered versus the total number of cases is down a little bit today from yesterday because we have so many new cases. And remember, it takes a while to get over this virus. But I think we've got, James, a new video of one of our folks that has recovered, and it's something to celebrate each and every time. We'll see if we have that video. Where are you when we need you, Ken? It's worth it every time. If that's our video, that's our video. That individual's coming out of the hospital. We want to show these, especially for those that were in harm's way, as much as we can, right? We all need hope. We all need inspiration as we get through this. And those who are better, we are so excited. But we do have those that don't recover. We do. That's why you are making the sacrifices that you're making. That's why we changed our lives and our economy. That's why right now you may be feeling that anxiety or a little stir crazy, is because how much we have done to try to make sure that that's the outcome and that we don't lose more people. So today we have 4 new deaths to the coronavirus. And while that's significantly less than we've had in some other days, again, 4 individuals, 4 families that are oh so important. So let's remember, let's light up our houses green. We light mine up, and we'll light this Capitol up green as well. And let's remember these families. Let's ring our bells tomorrow at 10 a.m. so that people out there know that they are not alone. And even if they've suffered loss during this, that while we can't be with them presently, that we are certainly with them in so many other ways. It's now at 148.
Why don't we light up all... I didn't get what he said.
10th to 1/3 of 1% of the total population. So that would be about 9,000 to 13,500 tests a day. And there have been other estimates from others that sort of were in the middle of that range for other areas in the country. I don't think any of us really know what the right answer is, but using that as a starting point, as an educated inference, that would mean we would, in 4 days, exceed the total number of tests we think have already been done in Kentucky over the last about 6 weeks. So if we did 9,000 tests a day over 4 days, that would be 36,000 tests. And we've done about 33,000 tests so far in Kentucky since we had our first patient on March 6th. So just to put this in context, where we have to get is substantially more than what we've already done in 6 weeks, and that's just over a 4-day period. And then for the personal protective equipment, we've made sure as much as we can that we're getting resources to help support the hospitals. But the hospitals are just one piece of this. We also have nursing homes that we're trying to help support. And then there are all the doctor's offices and clinics that people use that are still have to be addressed if they're going to open up. So we have a huge need for personal protective equipment that goes well beyond even what we've tried to do in a crisis management. So those next two things are about making sure the supply chain support the resources needed to keep both patients and healthcare workers safe. Then protecting at-risk populations and social distancing, those are things you all do. We're going to help you. We're going to give guidelines, requirements at times, and we're going to work, the governor is, with each industry to try to have the industries propose things that will help to comply with these. But those are things that you, the public, in partnership with us trying to help give guidance, are going to have to work through for our new normal, what that looks like. The preparedness for future spikes means we know this isn't going to be a surprise next time. So it was a surprise when the disease first showed up in December in China, but it's not a surprise now. We know the disease is here, and we know until we get vaccines and treatments, it's going to come back when we stop doing all of these social distancing measures. So you are forever going to have to wash your hands a lot more than you ever did before. Wearing masks is probably going to become a much more normal and typical part of our lives going forward, and doing other steps to have social distancing are going to be part of our new normal. And so while we work on those, so the protecting populations and social distancing with you, we're going to have to keep prepared so that if we see another resurgence that we'll find by tracking number of new cases and doing contact tracing, then we're going to have to take steps to kind of dial back up or down the measures we do. But obviously we're going to work real hard to try to do this in as calibrated a way as we can to minimize disruptions. Now I'm going to tell you, if you go to any of these publicly available websites, you can see Japan, unfortunately for Japan, is having a resurgence right now. They're having the second bump that we show on the St. Louis curve. That is something we have to work very, very hard to avoid. We want to have little ripples. We want to have a flat line. We don't want any disease. But since we're not going to be able to achieve that, we want to have little ripples over time. We don't want any big spikes. And should somehow we get a spike of some sort, that's why we have to make sure we're prepared for it so we can keep everyone as safe as possible. So I know we all target a May 1 date that sort of got put out there. We're going to work real hard with all the healthcare community and others to try to make sure we can start to do phase steps as soon as are reasonably safe. But remember, we're going to have to keep looking for that rate of new cases to determine when we get to that first stage gate, that first benchmark, when it is reasonable to start taking some of those steps. So we have a lot of work ahead of us, but like the governor says every day, I do believe we're going to get through this, and we'll get through it together, but we're going to get through it because of all these wonderful stories of Team Kentucky coming together. And as I finish out here real quick, with the nursing homes and all the hard work that's gone into that, I'd like to thank, we can never thank everybody, so thank you to everybody, but Lord's Mercy Hospital in Paducah, Western Baptist, and then General Baptist Health System, who's helped us in a number of regions to help relocate patients from nursing homes into hospitals. Norton and Louisville has also been very helpful. There have been others as well, but thank you to them. And then for my team, it occurred to me, or at least it was brought to my attention, we have so many different aspects. We have a whole team that does preparedness. So when we're procuring PPE, when we're distributing PPE, when we're working with regional plans to try to help work with partners across the state, we have a whole team that does that. So Becky Gillis is the head of that team, and she leads our unit of the disaster response team over at the Emergency Operations Center for Kentucky Emergency Management. And she has an entire team that supports her in doing that. So to Becky and the preparedness team, thank you very much for what you've done. You are the same sort of heroes that we've had in the laboratory community and the epidemiologists and the many other facets of this response. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll now move into questions. I think we've got Eleanor, Joe, and Monica here with us today, and we'll go back and forth with some written ones that we have. Now, I believe today is Joe's birthday. Happy birthday. So why don't you go?
Hello, with the
Jeez, we ought to keep getting commercials on the other one.
Has New State Police increased security for you, and are you concerned about your own safety?
The question is if I can react to threats online of violence against me, and is the Kentucky State Police doing any more, and am I worried? The Kentucky State Police is an incredible organization filled with great people. They provide security for me on a daily basis. I fully trust them. They know what they're doing, and I couldn't be in better hands. Several organizers of summer programs for kids are asking if there is a criteria of which activities may be able to continue once we reach the other benchmarks and begin to reopen. That's from Karen Sarr at WUKY. Remember, even with the phase 1 opening, the White House is recommending no school and no group kid activities. It's because our kids come in contact with so many people and when they're together. So, we're going to be watching this even week by week. But activities for summer programs for kids are something that we're going to have to be really careful with. Under the guidance that we've received, that wouldn't really start until even phase 2. And phase 2 is going to be a gradual thing that we're going to have to work towards. Eleanor.
Benchmarks having PPE available, do we think eventually it might be mandated and will that be provided for people that they have to wear in any sort of?
So the question is, with PPE, do we see a stage where people are mandated to wear certain things? Well, let's say right now in the general public, if we're able to ease up on certain things, then we're going to go from encouraging people to wearing cloth masks to highly encouraging people to wear cloth masks. That can't necessarily stop you from getting it, but it does potentially reduce the spread from other people. So without a vaccine or a proven significant treatment, as we are able to reopen things, then yes, it's going to require something that's going to look a lot different. It's going to require in people's work masks and gloves in many locations. It's going to require work being different and people being spread out. And those are plans that we're going to look at and have certain requirements as we're able to take those steps. And so on the PPE, it's not just the hospital folks, it's also going to be really throughout our society until we see a new vaccine. It's not just going to be things that we can't get to before a vaccine or gradual phasing where groups are much smaller. It's going to look very different as we go forward. Recently available blood tests for the coronavirus antibodies are being criticized by some as inaccurate or unreliable. What are my thoughts about the accuracy of these tests, and how big of a part will they play in my decisions to reopen the economy? That is a Dr. Stack question.
All right, I'm going to take just a minute to broaden that out. So there are two major different kinds of tests that we're talking about. One is when we look for the virus in your body. That's a polymerase chain reaction, a PCR test. The most common way we get that sample is to put a Q-tip in the back of your nose or in your lower nose. Maybe one day you'll be able to spit into a little tube, and we'll do it that way with your saliva. So that we look for the virus in your body. That's the one test we've had up until now. There are ways that require a larger machine to do it. Yep, and the governor's got the collection kit here. So there are ways that we use, thank you. So that's when you go in and someone takes a little vial. You'll see them have that little Q-tip here in the end. I'm not putting this in my nose. Anyone who's had it done doesn't want to have it done. But you put this thing all the way in the back of your nose and you spin it, and usually you do both nostrils at the same, one after the other, okay? So a good sample probably is not an experience you want to repeat, but that's a good sample. But we can do it other ways too, and they're probably pretty close to as good, but maybe not quite as good. So
That's what
we're
we
gonna work
took.
on that. If we find that doing a saliva test is as good or better, then obviously we're going to try to do ways that
And we
are
passed.
not inconvenient for patients. So polymerase chain reaction test is really, really good for finding the virus. There's a challenge with the PCR test though. Some people appear to have lingering virus in their nose or in their body, and it's not clear if they're still infectious or not. In fact, the test is so sensitive, just a little bit of virus in there can still show up in the test, but maybe your body's immune system has recovered from it. So this is why the guidelines, you'll see some variation about using repeated testing for clearing people or using clinical recovery from illness. So that, stay tuned, we're gonna work through that. And then the antibody tests. This is when we look in your body, it's a blood test, and we check and see if your body has developed proteins to fight off the infection. There's different kinds of proteins, ones that show you are currently or recently infected, and ones that show you have been infected but have appear to have produced an immune response that will protect you going forward. I don't want to disparage these tests. These tests are going to be critical going forward, but remember, this disease is about 4 months old. The tests are very new, and we have to get the ones that work the best, and we have to find out what they mean in the context of this disease and how people respond to the illness. So those rapid tests for antibodies will be very useful going forward, but I will be very careful. And again, I keep telling you over and over, don't go pay cash for tests. If you see a real doctor.
Question is, my inaugural fund had about 43,000 left in it. Have I thought about giving that to Team Kentucky? I don't believe I can under the law, because Team Kentucky, how it's classified under the IRS, doesn't allow that. It's not just a regular 501c3. We are going to look at ways to use that money to help people and to make positive change. I've just been focused on this coronavirus a little bit more. Eleanor? Nope. Monica? One more? All right, Joe, one more. It's your birthday.
I don't quite understand, a lot of people don't understand, why is Kentucky the only state in the country where chiropractors can remain? Can you explain why Kentucky is the only state?
The question is about chiropractors, and I've heard that we're the only state in the country where we have had orders that apply to it. I don't know that for a fact. I was relying on our public health experts and the situation we are in, both with PPE, but also the honeybee issue, where one individual seeing multiple other individuals, just like when we were asked about certain other professions and how it could spread. Dr. Stack, you want to chime in on this one?
Well, so chiropractic is a real hands-on experience, and so there's a real concern about how it's very hard. You have to be very personal with someone in order to do that, and the amount of PPE required. But there's another facet. When we started doing these restrictions, hands down, that community got the most complaints coming in time and time again early on that there were violations of the rules. And so at the time we were creating all of these restrictions, we were trying to very rapidly protect the public from getting exposed to this virus that we didn't know as much about. Now, as we go forward, So an open message to every community, not just chiropractic, but every community. But since chiropractic was the source of the question, please propose to us how you will be able to efficiently use PPE and what you will be able to do in order to socially distance and help to keep people from getting infected. We want to reopen as much as
Well, I
we
just
can
wondered
and
why
keep
they haven't
licenses
asked the
here. This is
question
not
about
intended
why does
to
he
be
let the
harmful to
abortion
any one
clinics
population. It was
remain
intended to
open
protect Kentuckians
where more
from getting
babies are
exposed to the
killed
virus that we
by
have no
far
treatments for,
I
no
know.
than have
vaccines
died
for,
from
and we've just seen the consequences.
coronavirus. That doesn't make any sense. I understand why people are upset about that.
And updating them every day. I haven't thanked partners in the media in a while, but we wouldn't be where we are. We wouldn't have flattened this curve, even with our results today, if you weren't out there keeping people informed, reminding them of the 10 steps, however you do it. So thank you to those that are also reaching out every day, like I am, to talk to people, to make sure we're staying calm and to make sure we're staying healthy at home. Each and every one of you in the media that's out there communicating with people have also been a very important part of Team Kentucky. Folks, we had our highest number of cases today. That doesn't mean we are not on the right track. We are. This is just how this virus works. So let's remember, as we are making plans and we're getting the plans in to reopen our economy, that we are still in the midst of the pandemic. And let's make sure that we do what it takes to protect the people around us, because we want to get through this. We want to get through this together, and we want to protect everybody we can along the way. So we're going to lead you with just a video to end tonight with some other individuals out there spreading the message of Team Kentucky every day. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, James. Thank you, Kenneth at home. Thank you, Dr. Stack.
Saturday's briefing said that some of those protests really appeared to be legitimate to him because he felt that some governors had gone too far. It'll be interesting to see whether or not he goes any further today, saying which states he feel are making